Hey, welcome. It's Mild's Culture Plate. It's 6 p.m. Saturday, September 9th, 2023. We have an interesting show for you, and we have our first guest on the Culture Plate. I'm going to go ahead and bring in Talk with Sally. Hi,
Hello,
Sally. How's it
welcome,
going?
everybody. Good, how are you?
So, as I do at the beginning of every show, I'm going to grab a bottle of whiskey here. I'm gonna break out the Hochtown Distilling Company small batch select because I like to give a toast to everyone who says hello in the chat, and we've got a couple people who've already done so. So while I do that, why don't if you will just introduce yourself just a little bit and introduce your channels. The links are down in the description, folks. Go ahead, Sally.
So I'm Talk with Sally. Kind of my background is I'm someone who went 10 years without ever watching the news because I knew from my sister working at the hospital that they got stories wrong all the time. They always lied. So I spent a long time not watching the news or paying attention to what's going on with politics or that. I lived in a bubble. And when COVID hit, I did so much research trying to understand what the truth was, what was really going on. And so I started getting educated, started learning. And I'm like, I want to talk about things, but I'm not sure what it is yet. But political minded. I do gardening stuff. I do watch parties just to escape the politics. But that's kind of me.
All right. So yeah, cheers to Mandy Karavichis and Squishy Hunter in the Rumble chat. I went ahead and gave 2 drinks already. And then over on YouTube, we got Suran and Tradeo. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
Thanks for stopping by. All right. So we're going to jump right into the first topic, which is going to be this video Sally sent me from JP Spears talking about a change in his stance on guns, why he was wrong about guns. And that's going to lead us into talking about this latest sort of dangerous news topic that came out of New Mexico. But let's look into this video from JP Spears first here.
The right to bear arms is not only my favorite constitutional right, it's the only constitutional right that I know of.
Hi there, friends. I was wrong about guns. I used to be pretty anti-gun. I'm a little embarrassed to say that. I thought they weren't necessary and we'd be better off without them. Like, please, government, just take our guns, disarm us.
Okay, so before I go any further, I've got to call out his Black Rifle Coffee shirt because you're still wrong about that. Anyway, no, at least I want to say this. At least he has the guts to admit when he's wrong, right?
100%. And I like him because he will publicly, to come out and publicly say, I was wrong about something. My mind has changed. We're so afraid to say, I got that wrong. When it's just like our politicians and everyone should just say, I got that wrong.
Yeah, I definitely was a lefty back in like 2003, 2004. I was a far lefty, and I would call into local radio programs and like debate other callers on like abortion, and I would just get demolished. That was like one of the first turning points where I'm like, oh, everything you said makes sense. Maybe I'm wrong about abortion. And then that kind of led me down the libertarian path a little bit. And yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and unpause it and let him continue talking here.
What an idiot I was. I even made this video back in 2017, pretty much making fun of people who were pro guns. Watch this example of how ignorant I was.
Yes, I'm outraged. And emotionally outraged people are the ones that should have guns in their hands because we can think the clearest.
I was completely wrong. But
Okay. Wow.
I'm surprised he was able to have a gun and that video still hasn't been taken down.
Yes.
I'm amazed by that.
Yes. In fact, I'm hoping this video stays up on YouTube after airing it. But no,
He's pretty
yeah,
cool.
I know yeah, definitely.
changed my mind. I now view the Second Amendment as absolutely essential in upholding our freedoms and our liberty. I believe changing one's mind about something isn't a bad thing. I actually think it's a good thing. It's called learning, evolving your thinking. And accordingly, I like to admit when I was wrong. So I want to go through a few clips from my old anti-gun video and share how my thinking has evolved. And I'll also share a shocking fact about what happens when citizens allow their government to disarm them. So this isn't going to be so much of a comedy video. Thanks for the ride.
Okay, so it's not going to be a comedy video. So you can kind of see where he's going here a little bit. I might jump forward just a hair because this is going to be a very informative video about. And you know what? No, I won't jump ahead. Actually,
you can if you jump ahead, go to like 9 minutes. Because if you most people, I don't know if you guys know JP Sears. He's actually a comedian in real life. He's done a lot of videos on like COVID and like the vaccines, and he got around all of that by renaming things the life jacket or like different things, and they're hysterical. But anyway, so that's his background. But the point of this whole movie is he goes through this whole thing about why he changed his mind, and then he'll go through stats of all the different murders that happen in other countries once we no longer have guns.
Yeah, that's kind of funny that he has little nicknames on this channel. I try to call the injection. I try to call that thing climate change.
Okay. I didn't realize we were on YouTube, so I'll have to be a little bit more careful. I apologize.
Hey, it's all good. Honestly, I have neglected my YouTube channel so much over the last 6 months that if something happens to it, I'm not that affected by it. I just, now that I have the capability, now that I'm finally doing a rough test of StreamYard and I have the capability to stream in 3 different places, I'm doing it.
That's nice.
All right, let's go back to JP here.
Now it's a comedy video. No, this will be more of I was wrong about guns and I love freedom, and the Second Amendment is vastly important at protecting our freedom. So here's what I learned video. So let's take a look.
Just think about it. What if
Okay, now I'll jump forward. You said to 9 minutes?
Yeah, probably about 9 minutes. I think that's when he starts going to statistics.
Okay, I'll start at about 8:55 because it looks like he's in the middle of a point here.
mass public shootings?
We can remind ourselves that gun laws only affect law-abiding citizens, not criminals. Mass shooters are criminals. Criminals aren't like, well, I was going to murder someone with this gun, but I don't want to risk getting a gun possession charge to go along with my murder charge. So I'm not going to do it. I'll obey the gun law. If a potential mass shooter knew that everyone around him was armed, or her, you psychotic women, then he'd be pretty discouraged from opening fire. That's why
Okay, so devil's advocate, like it didn't stop the army-based shooter. And it didn't stop a couple other people, but it's like once you're driven so far off the mental reservation to essentially suicide with one of these mass murder things, nothing's going to stop you anyway.
Was the army shooter, was everybody armed?
Oh yeah.
Oh, they were all armed. Okay.
I mean, he I believe he killed a couple people, but yeah, they took him down pretty quick.
Oh. So the point is they took him down quick without mass casualties.
Real quick, I did want to mention Mandy Karavich is in the chat, is worried about Rumble accepting her credit card. Don't worry about it. I don't really do this for the money. I don't do this for the donations. Just having you here, being able to chat is enough for me. I'm not monetized on any of these platforms really. So I appreciate you being here. Thank you. All right, now back to JP here.
Few mass shootings happen in Texas because everybody knows that most people in Texas are carrying. In fact, last year in Texas, there was a crazy person walked into a church, opened fire, but he was quickly shot and killed by a man carrying his own gun. Consider this. Switzerland issues all of their citizens a gun and the proper gun training to go with it. And that helps give Switzerland the lowest rate of gun crime out of any civilized country in the world. Let's bring this home.
Some countries that outlaw guns don't have mass public shootings, but they don't have real men in their countries neither.
Remember that.
Okay, so that was kind of funny. What's funny is his old video is almost, it tries to mock conservatism, but it's pretty based.
Yep. Well, he cracks me up. This video, I've watched it a couple of times, but
so, again, he says, most of the shootings in Texas and in a lot of places in the South, they don't last long. It's, again, the issue becomes, why did they decide to do this horrific act and where did they get the gun? And again, when you listen to the Biden administration and those types of folks that, they rail against things like ghost guns and gun show loopholes, when that's not how these people get these guns. Either they're illegally purchased or they're stolen from their parents or they're, otherwise, obtained through their friends and family.
and I guess more to his point though, is he's saying that they don't do these things in Texas because everyone has a gun. They're allowed to carry a gun. Therefore, the problem is resolved quickly without mass casualty.
Yeah, I saw, the meme that kind of goes around after every mass shooting a couple weeks back. The sign outside the school that says "Our teachers are armed, beware." Which school would you rather try to shoot up? The one with this sign or the one that says "Gun Free Zone"?
Oh, got it. Yeah, that's funny. I haven't seen that one, I don't think.
Mandy Karavich says, I love JP's California versus Texas video where his two characters argue like some Seattle dork appears and they team up to beat up the Seattle guy. I'm going to have to check out that one. I've seen some of JP's stuff, but not very much. So I'll have to look that up here after the show. Thank you.
Whole guns are meant to protect you from a tyrannical government kind of thing. Well, anytime a government disarms their population, they always tell them, we're doing this for your protection. Sound like a familiar narrative? But
yes, and that is exactly what's going on right now in New Mexico, as we'll find out in a few minutes.
What the government doesn't tell you is, now you won't be able to protect yourselves from us. I think we can either look at history and learn from it and do things better, or we can look at history and ignore it and repeat the same patterns. Something history teaches us is that anytime a government takes away their people's guns, catastrophe follows. I wish this wasn't the case, but it's a true pattern in history. For example, consider these shocking historical facts about what happens when a government disarms their population. In 1911, Turkey established gun control. Then from 1915 to 1917, 1.5 million Armenians, unable to defend themselves, were rounded up and exterminated. In 1929, the Soviet Union established gun control. And from 1923 to 1953, about 20 million dissidents, unable to defend themselves, were rounded up and exterminated. China established gun control in 1935. Then from 1948 to 1952, 20 million political dissidents, unable to defend themselves, were rounded up and exterminated. Germany established gun control in 1938. Then from 1939 to 1945, a total of 13 million Jews, unable to defend themselves, were rounded up and exterminated.
And okay, so the I don't think there really is a devil's advocate position. But the people who would be in those countries. So every now and then I get these Chinese bots that respond to me complaining about China and Tiananmen Square and this and that. So those Chinese bots, how they would respond was, well, we didn't murder those people because they were unarmed. We murdered them because they were spreading American disinformation. It's like, so the propagandists will always deny. But yeah, if you give up your guns, you get murdered. And real quick, I need to give another toast in the chat, or two of them. I missed Sanglant 86 earlier. Cheers to you.
Though, but kind of, it's kind of bigger than that. Like, Hitler was able to take control of Germany because he knew where every single gun was. They were registered. Therefore, he took all of the guns, and therefore they weren't able to defend themselves. So it's a bigger picture. They take our guns. It's the first step to communism. It's the first step to losing all of our rights as people, being able to move free. It's like, oh, well, you're going to live in this 15-minute city because now you can't defend yourself. You're there.
And cheers real quick to Shut Up I Can Cook on YouTube. Cheers. Yeah, it's always the enemies of the state, right? It's always the terrorists. And so yeah, once again, shout out to your recent live streams on Hitler right here on Rumble.
Thank you.
So anyway, back to JP here for a minute.
Cambodia established gun control in 1956. Then from 1975 to 1977, 1 million educated people unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. Guatemala established gun control in 1964. Then from 1964 to 1981, 100,000 Mayan Indians unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. Uganda established gun control in 1970. Then from 1971 to 1979, 300,000 Christians unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. 56 million people were rounded up and exterminated in the 20th century because of gun control. It is essential for America to protect our Second Amendment. It's not a stretch to say that our current government is already enacting tyrannical mandates and eroding our freedoms. And the same administration wants to get our country to a point where the citizens are disarmed. We know history, and therefore we know it's important to stay armed. Again, consider Australia, Canada, China, and even North Korea. They have severe tyrannical rule and abuse because those societies are not armed. It is a pain in the ass for a government to violate people when people can defend themselves from being violated. Oh, and along those same lines, here's a fun fact. During World War II, Japan decided not to invade mainland America because they knew most Americans are armed. The current administration will shamelessly use any public shooting to try to persuade the public through fear-mongering and deception to think it would be a good idea for us to turn in our guns. But keeping history, and therefore the vast importance of the Second Amendment in mind, will probably serve us much better than keeping their propaganda in mind. History teaches us when a government tries to take your guns, that's the exact government you will soon need to protect yourself against. In conclusion, I forgive myself for being anti-gun for a while, but I really appreciate my willingness to learn and change my mind, and I'll be pro-gun. And the reason why I'm very pro-gun is because I'm very pro-freedom.
Okay, I'm going to stop that for just a second. Shut Up I Can Cook in the chat said that someone else argued that people don't listen to history. That's so true, and I guess there's a little bit of a rebuttal here in that when, like, my neighbor down the street has the Gadsden Don't Tread on Me flag and the Blue Lives Matter flag flying in front of his house. And so, like, convincing conservatives that, yes, it's when tyranny comes, it's going to be with the guy with the badge knocking on your door. And, like, I would never advocate, like, when police knock on your door, show up with your gun. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's dangerous. But it's almost like the rebuttal to what this guy's saying is, what are you going to do when tyranny knocks on your door? It's supposed to be the fear that you're armed keeps government in check, not that you're actually going to defend your castle against an oncoming onslaught army of federal agents or something.
Do you think it'll be more along the lines of not necessarily cops, but, kind of like in Nazi Germany, how they had the SS? Hitler didn't trust the regular troops, right? It kind of seems like more like our FBI and our CIA are becoming more like the SS in our government. That seems like they are more who we should fear.
Yeah, and especially with the infiltration stuff, we know that they've had several boots on the ground on January 6th. It's the government infiltration, and not just infiltration, but the provocateurism that we have to worry about. So this idea that if we're armed, they have to think twice. It's more the Cold War. It's the fear that we might know how to defend ourselves, not that necessarily we have to be ready in case they're going to kick in our door, because all too often they're going to do stuff like January 6th and they're just going to trump up charges against us and issue warrants and just, wait us out and make us look bad in the media.
Yep. I think after this, all he's going to do is do a commercial. So this is pretty much this video.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and bring that up. I'll bring that out then, and I will move on to the actual stuff regarding what's going on in New Mexico. This is, okay, so this is kind of new for me. Bear with me. Excuse me. Okay, so this was shared by Benny Johnson on Twitter, or X. And this is the press conference, or I guess the hearing in which the governor of New Mexico issues this order here. And let's hear what she has to say about gun control and the future of constitutional rights in the state of New Mexico.
Your point is valid.
You took an oath to the Constitution.
Can you hear that?
Constitutional to say you cannot exercise your carry license?
With one exception, and that is if there's an emergency, and I've declared an emergency for a temporary amount of time, I can invoke additional powers.
Okay, so as everyone's got the same take, this idea of an emergency. Rights are given by God. Emergencies maybe made by God, but they don't take away your abilities. I mean, it's always been kind of my belief that constitutional rights, human rights, etc., they're like superpowers. They're like your muscles. You exercise them. They're inherently, you're born with them as a creature created by God, or if you're an atheist, your creator, whatever you think created you, when you come out of that birth canal, you're granted those abilities. You're granted the ability to speak. You're granted the ability to hide your documents. You're granted the ability to have a home without troops being in them. It requires government intervention to take away those.
What gifts are these? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
What gifts are these emergency powers?
Well, we're about to find out. I mean,
Okay.
the emergency powers are essentially that she can suspend the Second Amendment. At the beginning of this, the citizen or whoever, I don't know if it was a reporter or citizen, was asking, essentially you're taking away people's right to carry, either concealed or not. You're just taking it away. And then she goes, yeah, well, we have that ability during an emergency. Anyway, so there's still another minute and a half here on this video. Let's go ahead.
Okay.
No constitutional right, in my view, including my oath, is intended to be absolute.
So again, nothing's absolute. And then she said, including my oath. So flat out admitting, like, I don't have to tell the truth when I take an oath to the Constitution.
So her oath to the Constitution is not absolute. That's pretty much what she just said.
Yes. Now, it's my opinion that uttering those words to me should be viewed as way more treasonous than anything they're accusing Donald Trump of doing right now.
Complete
Like
tyranny.
that's insurrection to me.
There are restrictions on free speech. There are restrictions on my freedoms. In this emergency, this 11-year-old and all these parents who have lost all these children, they deserve my attention to have the debate about whether or not in an emergency we can create a safer environment. Because what about their constitutional rights? I took an oath to uphold those too. And if we ignore this growing problem without being bold, I've said to every other New Mexican, your rights are subrogated to theirs.
Okay, so
She belongs in a loony bin.
yes. How do I unpack this without just being completely absurd? I have to basically be completely absurd to unpack this, because again, there's no enumerated. The right to life exists, don't get me wrong, but it's not an enumerated right under the Constitution. So this idea that we would suspend an enumerated right for what she's essentially arguing is a right under the right to life under the 9th Amendment.
She's crazy.
Yes, and then this idea that she can declare an emergency because a few children have died to gun violence. She doesn't like banning law-abiding citizens from carrying weapons doesn't bring these children back to life. And most gun violence, as we just learned from JP Spears, is committed by people in illegally possessing their weapons. So
next, is she going to ban sex so that there won't be any abortions? I mean, they have a right to life, so sex is now banned in New Mexico, guys.
yeah. Cheers to DNL Mentors in the chat. Welcome. Cheers. But we'll go ahead and let her keep talking a little more, because there's a little more left on this.
And they are not, in my view.
Wait a minute, you're talking about crimes. There are already laws against crimes, so how are there rights?
I got it, but again, if I'm unsafe, who's standing up for that right?
You don't have a right.
The climate is so out of control.
Are you really that unsafe with your guards?
Somebody should do something. I'm doing as much as I know to do.
Madam Governor,
Yep.
do you really think that criminals are going to hear this message and not
Nope.
carry a gun in Albuquerque on the streets for 30 days?
No. But here's what I do think. It's a pretty resounding message.
Nope, that's not going to work. You're not going to be safe, but the message is great. It's really good. I am in power and I'm in control, and by damn it, I rule this state.
Wow.
You're speechless.
I am because yes, not only are criminals not going to follow it, so it's not going to work. So you can't even claim that it does work. But then she says, well, what about my right to feel safe? You don't, like, your right to life is a right, but you don't have a right to feel safe. Like, your feelings aren't your rights. And again, I go back to what I said earlier. Your rights are things given by God. You have a right to feel safe if you want to feel safe. You know, there are brave people who choose to feel safe in dangerous situations, but your feelings aren't something that can be controlled, nor given, nor administered by a government agent infringing on someone else's rights.
How many guards does she have, and how many of them are armed, and what weapons does she carry? I guarantee you she feels safe.
Well, you saw in the video, I mean, she's got a literal badge sitting right next to her, probably with a gun on his hip.
Yep.
So, real quick, I want to bring this up. So this is so bad that probably the person in the United States with some of the worst takes on guns ever in American history disagrees with this woman. David Hogg, anti-gun, take all the guns, David fucking Hogg, who doesn't want anyone to own any kind of self-defense, nothing, disagrees with this woman.
Wow.
When you have the furthest left of the left gun grabbers in this country saying, but wait a minute, you're suspending the Constitution? You're saying your emergency powers mean rights don't exist? That's not right.
I wonder how long. I mean, she did it for 30 days. So for it to go into through the appeals court or to have some kind of illegal action taken, she still got her way for 30 days until it can be brought up to the Supreme Court. Am I wrong?
To some degree. I mean, I think the issue comes in enforcement. So, I mean, what happens if Joe Smith isn't watching the news, isn't aware of this order,
True.
has a concealed carry permit, he's walking around, a cop kind of sees the bulge in his jacket, comes, pats him down. Oh, you're armed? You know, what happens then? Does the guy get arrested? Well, if he gets arrested, then he has, standing. But it's like the way these appeals courts and the Supreme Court work, it's like, well, if your rights weren't actually infringed, you just thought they were infringed, we might or might not have standing depending on how the judge feels that day.
Yeah, that was. I'm just curious to see how many cops are not going to enforce this law.
Yeah, and you would think it being in the South, being in New Mexico, there'd be a lot of Southern boys as sheriff who would come out and say something about this, but this is still pretty new. I think we're going to hear things in the coming days of how local law enforcement departments are responding to this and whether or not they agree with this. And
I don't know. With Mexico being just right there, across the border, those people need to be able to have guns to protect themselves.
Oh, yeah.
I can't assume it's not safe to live there. Anyway.
Yeah, I was just hearing somebody talk about how they lived on the Arizona border and they had frequent traffic coming across their property, and they were lacing the meat.
Oh, really?
With glass to try to kill their dogs so their dogs wouldn't chase them off the property.
That's horrible.
And essentially they kept calling the cops. The cops wouldn't do nothing. They kept calling Border Patrol. Border Patrol wouldn't do anything. So they said, look, we're going to have to start defending our property. I'm an old man. My wife's an old woman. We're going to have to put up electric fencing. We're going to have to do something because they are going to wind up killing our animals.
Wow.
And so, yeah, the idea that someone, down in the southern borders of New Mexico is going to have to defend their property against people like that, yeah, they're going to need to be armed. The border is a whole other topic to unpack. But anyway, do you have anything else to say about this New Mexico situation?
I don't think I do. It's very new to me. That's just my opinion on it. I think it's tyrannical, and I think that people shouldn't stand for it. I don't know how you protest, because if they say go down to the Capitol and protest, probably all going to go to jail. Be sent to Washington. I don't know.
Yeah, there were rumblings that someone was talking about having an open carry protest. I do not recommend that one bit.
Nope.
No, because you're going to have that set up and provocateured. You're going to have Antifa showing up, popping off rounds. People like Joshua Zeminski that was up in Kenosha during the Kyle Rittenhouse stuff, shooting guns up.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna have people like that showing up to
I wouldn't do it.
Protests like that. Definitely do not go out armed at a protest during situations like this. Because
don't fall for it. Even if it's on Facebook, if it's on Twitter, if it's on YouTube, don't fall for it. Don't even engage in any kind of a chat group saying, "Oh yeah, let's go do that. That'd be really cool." They'll get you that way.
Let me clarify. You should have the right as a free American to do so, but do not do it because it is a bad choice, bad situation. Sorry, got another fly in my room. Okay, well, so let's move on to some lighter topics. So this is a video that went viral. It was posted by Catch Up, reposted by Ian Miles Chong, and several other people, and they were commenting on it. This was a little over a week and a half ago, but I was in Vegas, so I didn't get a chance to cover it. I wanted to bring it up now. This video went remotely viral. Let me get your opinion and maybe the chat's opinion on this. This is a woman making dinner while her husband is relaxing and her child is being a little bratty in the kitchen. So let's see what's going on here. That's loud as hell. Okay, what I did between 5 and 6 p.m., cook dinner, yawn a lot, take 27 calming breaths, negotiate with a toddler, console the toddler, proceed to cook with one hand, ruin dinner, consider running away, laugh instead of cry. I don't know Okay. So yeah, this is the Mama Brianna on TikTok complaining that her husband was chilling out while she was struggling to cook dinner with a toddler. And there have been a lot of hot takes about this, and I'm not necessarily going to go through them all, but you know, a lot of people were sympathetic with her struggle, and look, I'm sympathetic with her struggle as well. But it seems to be part of this trend lately of sort of young to middle-aged women, usually first child, taking to the internet for these sympathetic ears. And so I don't necessarily wrong them for that, but then they take the idea that, well, let me just shame my husband in the middle of all this. Let me just make my husband look like a bad guy on the internet. And wow, the different takes I saw about this. So, you know, a lot of people shaming her for shaming her husband, other people applauding her for doing all the good work and trying to cook dinner. I don't know. What's your opinion on this video?
A, did she ask her husband for help? B, I had kids. I made dinner and did laundry with kids on my hip. It's called motherhood. It's part of life. And C, was your husband, did he work all day long? Did he work a 12 or 14-hour shift? Is he relaxing? And it's your thing? And did you ask for help? Because that's motherhood. My kids for 2 years were on a hip because they wanted to be held while I made dinner, while I did laundry. It's motherhood. It's life.
Yes, indeed. And, you know, but it's also, it's not just motherhood. It's being a good partner. And, you know, I kind of shit on the idea of marriage sometimes on my show here, but, you know, if you are going to get married, trying to be a respectful partner, trying to be a teammate with your partner. Granted, chilling out, playing on your phone with your feet kicked up probably wasn't being a teammate in his direction. But again, like you asked, did she even ask him? And real quick, I forgot to toast Julian Delfiki in the chat. Extra butter, no jelly. I don't have butter or jelly. I got a little mango Snapple. So let me.
For one, I just don't think ever. Sorry, go ahead. Finish your.
Go ahead.
I was to say, I'm just never. I don't care if it's your spouse or your kids. I don't think that public shaming is ever the answer. If you have an issue, I don't even think you do it in a group setting. I think you do it in private, in closed doors, and say, you know, this really bothered me when you did this. Would you please not do it anymore? In private, not for the whole world and not for a whole group to know.
Yeah. Yep. So anyway, so I just wanted to kind of just ramble about that for just a minute. And then there's one more video. I won't play the whole thing because I think most of the internet is already so sick of this video by now. Have you seen this Star Wars boobs thing?
I don't know if I have, unless it was on TikTok this morning or Rumble or Twitter this morning.
Yeah, here we go. So I may have to adjust the volume. I may have to adjust the volume.
Star Wars fucking sucks right now. I fucking hate it. First of all, why is there even an Ahsoka? I saw a little bit fucking screenshots of it. I haven't seen it, and it looks like trash. It fucking looks like trash. Why is there a fucking Luke Skywalker there? Fucking Mark Hamill from like when he was in his Return of the Jedi. Now, don't do that. There is no fucking reason to watch any of the Star Wars past the first 3.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause it right there for just a minute. I'm not gonna try to address many of her Star Wars points because that's not really why I wanted to watch this video.
I wanted to see boobs.
Partly. You know, as much as like I go in hard on people like Amaranth and some of the sex work streamers on the internet. This is like the next step, the next level. I kind of poked fun at the ice cream yum girls and the hot dog yum girls. Anyway, so this is like the next step. This is the next level. This is going after nerd culture and being like, boobs. Mandy Karavich is in the chat, says I cringed at her zipper corset. Yeah.
That's all I was staring at was a zipper corset.
I mean, and of course she has it unzipped just enough.
I'm surprised them are staying inside there. I'm waiting for them to go. Boop.
Yes, the way they're jiggling as she's screaming and moving her hands. You see, that's why I wanted to watch this, because this is so over the top. Like at some point, whatever she's saying about Star Wars becomes irrelevant. Now, the first time I watched this, I'm listening to her points about Star Wars, and I'm like, well, that's not true. Like, I wasn't even looking at her boobs, and I didn't understand why people were sharing this video. And then I watched it again, and I was like, jiggle. Like her way her arms are going. Mentors say if they do pop out, it's content. Anyway, so let's listen a little bit more, because I actually do want to take apart her Star Wars take just a little bit.
The prequels is just a Star Trek ripoff done poorly, okay? They're trying to do the whole political thing. No, not in Star Wars. Star Wars is not about politics. Even the 6th one is ruined by the CGI that they added. And the
Okay, so what does CGI have to do with politics? And yes, it was definitely a political movie.
What? First of all, the Ewoks make no practical sense. How are you going to destroy the Empire using rocks and sticks? They have guns. They have lasers. How the hell does the fucking Ewoks stop the Empire and destroy the second Death Star? Why the fuck is there a second Death Star? Don't you learn from the first fucking movie?
So I appreciate that she keeps putting all these graphics over her boobs. So like the frustrated younger male audience are like, move the Death Star. I want to see.
I know nothing about Star Wars. I've seen the first one years ago, and that's it. So
pretty much 90% of what she's talking about could be garnered from skimming a Wikipedia article about Star Wars. She's not saying anything of any substance whatsoever. This is clearly just a look at my boobs video while I talk about Star Wars to get horny men to click. And yes, here I am clicking on it.
Clickbait.
And yes, here I am clicking on it. I'm just as guilty as she is.
Where fucking Lucas destroys it so easily? Why are you making?
Oh, Mandy Karavich just says, well, she has 2 Death Stars. Hypocrite.
Oh my gosh, Mandy, you kill me.
This is a waste of resources. There is no reason to watch any of the fucking Star Wars shows. There's no reason. The only Star Wars you need to watch the first 3 and also the other comics that Disney disavowed once they started making the sequels. Oh, let's just screw over the fans. Fuck.
I don't buy that she's ever read a comic book.
Maybe she has. I mean, she's got like, I don't know, maybe not. Probably not.
Yeah, she's got a little He-Man poster behind her, but it's Kevin Smith He-Man, so I don't know if
Oh. It's the old He-Man. It's the new He-Man.
yeah.
Fuck you, Disney. You're ruining literally everything. There are good films that exist, not Disney. First of all, Disney butchered Scarlett Johansson's tits in fucking Marvel movies.
Okay, so here's the
Oh!
gag. Here's the gag. So now she's ranting about titties. So all this time she's showing her titties, and Mandy says, "Look at her face. She knows what she's doing." Yes, and now she's talking about titties. So yeah, the real reason you've been watching this video. Now let's get to it. Now, Disney.
Scarlett Johansson ruined boobies.
Right after they bought it, oh, no more tits. All it's CGI. Let's get rid of the fucking tits.
All right, let me just pause that for just a minute, so any of the male chat can enjoy the Iron Man 2 ScarJo.
So you're saying you are mad?
Huh?
I was saying she's mad because she couldn't see their boobies. They ruined them.
Yeah, although it's weird. It's almost like the tiny bit of cleavage here on the Black Widow. I don't know. Maybe she needs to bend over more in the Iron Man 2. Anyway. Sanglant says, and she throws in a Nazi salute. I smell a Poe. Yeah, probably.
You are family friendly. Fuck you. Fuck you. Iron Man and the other ones that she's in. Oh yeah, those are good because of all the jiggle tits. Now there's none of that.
Okay, so there's a longer version on her YouTube channel. If the chat wants to find that, you could probably find her YouTube channel fairly easy. But really, it like I said, I wanted to watch this because this was satire. This was a wonderful piece of satire, and I have to give her props. I had to give her a click. I had to give her a thumbs up myself because I appreciate the satire. And while I normally would totally make fun of and rip apart and be bad on these women who really don't have a lot of actual content, they're just sex streamers or glorified simp milkers, for lack of a better term. They just give me money. Just give me money. All the simps give me money because you could see my cleavage. The Amaranths of the world, which, speaking of Amaranth, I think she was on the Quartering yesterday.
Oh, really? That surprises me.
Yeah, it's like she was like a lead-in for Roseanne Barr, so the Quartering had Amaranth and Roseanne Barr on for a little bit. It's like weird.
You had her Amaranth on for the lead-in to like the great Roseanne Barr?
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't watch any of it, but I saw him bragging about it on Twitter and was like crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, I bag on Amaranth all the time. I bag on the titty streamers on TikTok. So it's like there's lots of space for beautiful women on the internet. Don't get me wrong. And this is one example that I think she was able to utilize satire in her advantage.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious what her other content is. If that's just satire and was making a big joke, it's pretty funny. But if that's all of her content, then questionable.
Well, her Twitter handle says something about movie reviews, so I think she does a lot of movie type content.
Okay.
Again, I'm gonna have to keep an eye out. I'm gonna have to check it out. I like I said, this was pretty funny to me. I wish she had scripted it just a little deeper and a little better, where she talked a little more about the Star Wars lore than something that could be gained from a Wikipedia search. But it is what it is. Yeah, well, that was all the topics I had.
Wow.
Lined up. I kind of thought that the gun thing would take a little bit longer.
Yeah, the gun thing, I don't know. I'm curious to see what else is out there. I should have had you pull up a video. Gosh, I don't know if you could find it.
I'm willing to try. We still got a good 7-10 minutes left.
My phone. Oh, it's on my Twitter. Hold on. It's right here. I didn't know how much time we would have, so
By the way, we are also live on Twitter. On my Twitter.
oh, we are MySpaces. Do they call it Spaces
No.
or were they?
Nope, it's not Spaces. It's a video stream. I was able to connect that to StreamYard, and so I'm streaming there as well.
Well, that's cool. Let's see. Where's my? I'm such a boomer when it comes to Twitter because I saved it.
I do have one other thing I could bring up.
Okay, bring it up.
Have you seen this video of Mike Lindell at a deposition?
That's what I was going to show you.
Ah, okay.
Because I shared it. I shared it so I would have it. Yep, play that. It's awesome.
Okay, here we are. So, okay, make sure I got the volume back up after her screaming.
I said objection, non-responsive. Let me explain a few more things to you.
What?
Let me explain a few more things to you.
Mm-hmm.
Have you given a deposition before like this?
I've given a ton of depositions.
Okay, so you understand the process somewhat.
Mm-hmm. Sure do.
Okay. When I ask you a question, you need to do your best to respond only to my question.
We're going to arrest me? I'll
You
say whatever I
understand
want, and if we have extra, that's too bad. There's no rule that says I can't give a full answer.
Okay, so already you could tell, like, this is obviously opposing counsel. He's obviously already fed up, and we'll continue here.
So, I'm telling you the rules. Have you ever been in a deposition where they can't stand who you are? Have you?
A lot more than you, sir.
Okay, good. Keep going. Don't tell me about my depositions. You're not my boss. You're just some frivolous lawyer in here, and you bring in this frivolous case to me, and especially against a company that had nothing to do with anything. You're disgusting. Keep going.
I want you to understand another thing.
What's that?
This case is pending in federal court.
I don't
in
care.
Colorado.
What does that have to do with anything?
Do you understand that?
Yes.
Yes.
So again, it's like, so the smugness of this attorney, do you understand that this is in federal court? It's almost like, I'm going to tell the teacher on you.
Well, he is. He's going to tell the judge on him. So the judge is going to read this, and she's going to see this, and how you behave is going to determine whether you get charges.
Yes.
All right. There's a federal judge that's going to likely be reading and watching this deposition.
I don't
care. You
care.
understand that?
I don't care. She should have dismissed this a long time ago. She hasn't ruled on that. There's a problem. I got a problem with her too.
Okay. The judge has practice standards on how.
No, the judge did not dismiss this case. We put in to get it dismissed, and she ruled an unfair ruling saying, well, go ahead and do discovery and waste all your time while I'm sitting there not doing nothing. That's what that judge is doing. So don't tell me what the judge is doing, and you just let me worry about the judge reading this, okay?
I just want you to understand that.
No, you just don't worry about me. You're not out for my benefit, okay? He's out for my benefit, not you.
There we go. He said it. He said, I got my own lawyer. I don't need you telling me what to do. That is great.
Yep.
So you can, don't worry if I say something that offends the judge, okay? You just let me worry about that. You got that?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, good. Keep going.
The reason I bring that up, sir, is if the judge is not pleased with your conduct in this deposition, there may be penalties.
Okay, good. You tell her, you go ahead, and you thank you for you're worrying about old Mike. You're really, that's great. It seems like you bring a frivolous case up. You really have my back. Go ahead. Keep going. That judge, you put this in the record, that judge, it's a big problem I got. If someone didn't have the money or time to sit through this garbage, when I put into her summary judgment last summer and she hasn't ruled on it, either say yay or nay. It's disgusting. It's disgusting to our country that she couldn't make a ruling. Go ahead and do deposition. If it was some guy that didn't have money, you would put them under just in this garbage. Wasting my day, wasting my time. But think if it was someone on the street, don't you care about people? This is disgusting. This judge should have ruled a long time ago that you're yay or nay, frivolous or not. But she didn't. She said, go ahead and do discovery while I sit and decide what I'm going to do. That's disgusting. I got no problem with you on that. I got a problem with the judge not making a ruling. So there. Now go ahead. Now that the judge has that on record, now you don't have to worry about what me and the judge think of each other. All right.
Objection,
Hey.
non-responsive.
Objection,
Here-
non-responsive.
Yeah.
He already objected non-responsive to the previous question, and then literally everything he asked him, do you understand this? Do you understand that? He was fully responsive. He said, yes, I understand. You don't need to worry about that.
You're not worried about me. You're just worried about yourself.
So
That's
technically, he wasn't unresponsive. He responded very thoroughly.
Here's another thing that I need you to know, Mr. Lindell. If the court determines that you're not being responsive or acting in good faith today, we may have to come back and do this some more. And I want you to understand that.
Oh, I got that.
All right. And if that's the case, I will be asking for attorney's fees and costs.
Oh,
For
you
us to
will,
do
huh?
it
I'm
again.
already asking for them. I might just come after you guys for the most frivolous case ever when this is done. If there's a way to sue you, believe me, I'm doing it.
Okay.
Okay, just so you know that, beyond anything you've ever seen. So be prepared.
I'm committed to being polite and professional.
Okay,
today.
go ahead. We're
All
good.
right.
Okay, but again, being a polite professional bully is still being a bully.
Yep. It's more
And,
condescending.
and again, look, I'm not here trying to necessarily defend Mike Lindell. It's just I totally appreciate the tone he's taking here. He's like, you're an adversarial attorney trying to tell me what to do, and I'm not going to listen.
He's standing up. He's standing up for himself. Nobody stands up. They kowtow. Oh, I might have to pay your attorney's fees. Oh, I might get this or that. He's like, screw that. I'm standing up for myself. This is bullshit. And I'm not standing for it. Do what you got to do.
And this attorney is taking the tone that I hate to see from court officials. It's this, well, I know what's best for you and you should just listen to me because blah, it's pretentious. It's, again, like he says, I already have an attorney to watch out for me. I don't need you watching out for me. So trying to warn me about all the things, that's just a threat.
He's
And
just trying to control it.
Yeah, if you're going to threaten me, then I'm going to respond to the threat. Again, this I'm going to be asking for more legal fees. Essentially, yeah, I'm going to milk your bank account there, Mike.
Even more.
We're through that. Now you know where I sit. Let's get on with it.
Okay.
Okay, and that's the end of the video, but wow.
It's so good to see him, people, period, standing up because, like, I guess I don't even know what his lawsuit is. I don't know what he's being sued over, so I don't know if it's frivolous or not, but he feels like it is. And hasn't he been targeted ever since the whole Trump thing? Nonstop.
Yes. And yes, this was during the Dominion defamation suit.
Okay.
So this is Dominion essentially saying, can I even say that on YouTube?
You could say Dominion. I think they've already ruled on it. So
yeah, so this is Dominion essentially saying that when you claimed that our servers were in Cuba, a different country, and that we other nations may be hacking our elections through our software, that you were defaming us, and so yeah, they're suing him, and he thinks it's frivolous, and
have they proved that? Have they proved that that's not the case, or they just Fox settled? So I don't know if they ever went to try to prove that what they were saying was false because it never went to judgment.
Well, I think that's kind of part of the point of this lawsuit. I think if once they go through this discovery process, it's kind of on the some of these defamation suits, especially when you're dealing with public figure and public company, with a public figure, you have to have the actual malice standard. And then, which means they were supposed to have done their due diligence in researching. And if Dominion can prove like it's not true, and if he would have done the research, he would have seen that it wasn't true. So it's this weird, it's this weird, he just should have done more due diligence standard that is going to be applied by the court no matter what. And if this judge is really as crooked as he's saying she is, who knows? But we have yet to see that. I personally think some of these accusations made by Mike Lindell and Sidney Powell and Fox News against Dominion, I think some of them were a little little far out there, and maybe they shouldn't have
Probably.
said such things, but who knows? Yeah, DNL Minter says it's been settled out of court in other cases. Yeah, Fox News settled out of court, and I think Sidney Powell's in negotiations for settlement. So who
Interesting.
knows? Anyway, so yeah, that's going to be approaching the end of the show here. Again, you want to give out any info on where to find you? And
I'm just on Twitter, on Facebook and Rumble at Talk with Sally, and then on Twitch is just mostly movies, and it is Sally P78. And so anyway, you can follow me on those places.
Okay, I don't have your Twitter in the description, but on
Okay.
Rumble and YouTube, I have your YouTube, Rumble, and Twitch links. So you can find that down in
They're
the
all the
bottom.
same.
Yep. You can find my links down in the bottom. I usually try to make an announcement on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook before I'm going to go live. If for some reason my stream needs to be moved, I try to let people know there. If you can take a moment, anyone in chat, click that like button, go subscribe to any of Sally's channels, subscribe to any of my channels, follow me here on Rumble, share things off platform as much as you can. It really helps creators out when you do that. Thank you once again, Sally, for being the first guest on Mild's Culture Plate. I cannot thank you enough. This has been awesome. I've been kind of nervous, but you have helped a ton.
I think it went well. It was fun. This is my first time, other than I did a locals call-in stream one time, but this is my first time interacting, and so it was great. Thank you for having me.
Indeed. And so for you and for everyone else out there in the chat, several months ago, I added this to my ending spiel because when Jerry Springer passed away, I felt it was the perfect sign off. So everyone take care of yourselves, take care of each other. And then my own little addition is I'll last the haters. Don't get any on you. And if you do, rub that shit in real good. I'll see everyone next time on Mild's Culture Plate, which should be this Wednesday, 6 p.m. Central, right here at www.rumble.com/mild/live and Mild's Culture Plate on YouTube. Thanks again, everybody. Peace.